Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. As people are coming into our webinar, we just give it a couple of minutes so that more people can join. But while other people are joining, we are very happy that so many have signed up for this webinar, and a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the Early Warnings for All pillar leads and all the partners involved in this important initiative, which has the aim of protecting everyone everywhere with life-saving early warnings by 2027. So very happy that you're joining us. Just allowing a little bit more time for colleagues to join. My name is Jochen Luther. I'm a technical coordinator for services at the regional office for Asia and the Southwest Pacific of the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, one of the pillar leads of the Early Warnings for All initiative. And I'm also a focal point for the Early Warnings initiative for WMO in the region. And on behalf of all the pillar leads and the partners, I have the honor to moderate this webinar, which will last for 1 hour. And it has the topic Inclusive Multi-Hazard Early Warning Systems, collaborating with all people and all stakeholders within and across every pillar of the early warning value chain. And this is the second edition of our Asia-Pacific Early Warnings for All webinar, which we aim to conduct every month. And we have 5 distinguished speakers. One is from another pillar lead, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. And the other 4 speakers are from countries sharing their experience, their good practice, their challenges with us. They will have 5 minutes to present their pitch, and after that we will have time to discuss some of the issues presented. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Mr. Marco Toscano Rivalta, who is the Chief of the Regional Office for Asia and Pacific of the UNDRR in Bangkok. Over to you, Marco.
Thank you very much, Jochen. Good morning to all of you, and also to good afternoon for the friends who are joining us from the Pacific. Also, warm welcome following Jochen, also from the other colleagues and pillars lead in the Early Warning for All initiatives, and of course, a very special thank to the colleagues from countries which are going to share their views and experience and where they're taking their systems toward. This series of webinars are quite important in the sense that they're really helping all the partners to not only have an increased focus on work on early warning system, but also finding additional ways to engage other partners in governments and non-governmental institutions or private sector that are playing an important role and will have to play an increasing role in making our early warning systems more efficient, more effective. There are important dimension on institutionalizing early warning systems, which were the subject of the first webinars. Today we focus on inclusion. I think that is, for all of us, the dimension of inclusion is a given in its importance. But of course, there are many challenges from a practical point of view on what it means. And the inclusion side is both from the perspective of stakeholders and institutions, meaning that it needs to be an early warning system. We know there needs to be a whole of country institutions engagement, both at the central government level as well as the local level, but it cannot just stay with the institutions. So it's an issue of inclusion when it comes to non-governmental partners, private sector, community volunteers, community leaders, religious leaders, and so on. And then, of course, there is the dimension of inclusion that is about leaving no one behind, meaning persons with disabilities, women, older persons, youth, indigenous people, and many other critical partners. The reason why I want to call them partners because although stated as a principle in the Sendai framework, in reality, we can still see that making disaster risk reduction truly inclusive is a challenge, and somewhat also due to a mindset, in the sense that there is a tendency to look at some of these partners as beneficiaries. They are not. The complexities of early warning systems and managing disaster risk in general and getting communities prepared really requires all hands on deck, which basically means you really need to capitalize on the experience and knowledge that all stakeholders have. And one dimension also that is quite important in inclusive early warning system is also the economic value of early warning system. We are all familiar with the statistics that the Global Commission on Adaptations report put forward already a few years back. So here the question of inclusion is that there are significant economic inequalities. So making early warning system truly inclusive means that the economic benefits of an early warning system also is going to impact on the people that are still being left behind. Two important aspects here is that when we look at the Sendai Framework Monitor, the disaggregation of data is still very, very limited. I think that in our region, only 17 countries are doing some form of disaggregation. So there is much more to be done, and even for those who are doing it, to go deeper. For instance, I give you a concrete example when it comes to inclusion. The assistive technology for persons with disability that can be very sophisticated, high-end technology, like hearing equipment and so on, can be wheelchair, but can also be canes or glasses. And we know that these things are not necessarily accounted for, and therefore when that has also an impact on how early warning are actually, if and they are received, and what type of action can people really, in concrete terms, take. There is an important element in inclusion from the perspective of risk communications, risk understanding, and then acting. I'll give you a very concrete example. I was in a very interesting meeting here in Bangkok a few days ago, where researchers pointed to the fact that most of the world's female informal workers are living and working in areas highly impacted by heat waves. And again, the Global Commission on Adaptation put to the importance of the benefit also for early warnings in heat waves. Now, what the community leaders told us, working with some communities in Thailand, is that some of these female community leaders and workers, they simply cannot connect the consequences of heat waves to their situations and the challenges they're facing. They do not necessarily fully understand the consequences. So we need to think, when it comes to early warning system for heat waves, how we can be better in communicating and making sense of those warnings, because otherwise those workers, those community leaders, those family members, they will not be able to take the right action. And of course, we have had great progress in terms of using science and technology for better hazard monitoring and understanding. And here the great work, of course, of WMO, ITU as partners in these initiatives, but many others, of course, also beyond the United Nations system, ESCAP. But then there's much more that needs to be done in terms of using sensor technology to harness the socioeconomic vulnerabilities. And they have a direct bearing on properly functioning tailoring and triggering of early warning systems. So how can we make a better use of socioeconomic vulnerabilities data that are, for instance, in the international censuses and in the hands of many other organizations, can be university, think tanks, and so on and so forth, harnessed and then used for more efficient and more effective early warning system, especially at the community level. And here I need to recognize the leading role for the Red Cross and the Red Crescent societies over decades, if not centuries in some case. And this, of course, the use of this socioeconomic vulnerability information then has a direct bearing on anticipatory action, has a direct bearing on shock responsive social protection mechanisms and their triggering. So we can see how the how the inclusion dimension, both from an institutional and stakeholder side, but also from and most fundamentally from a human side, then trickles down in many detailed dimensions that all of us are working in and try to make a different force. I would stop here, Jochen, if that is okay. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing the discussion and the sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marco, for setting the scene so nicely and highlighting all these dimensions of inclusiveness, from engaging more partners to the socioeconomic benefits that should benefit all, to engaging everyone in the design and the implementation of these early warning systems, and also highlighting the access to technology and disability and all these dimensions in every pillar of the Early Warnings for All initiative. And this is truly a cross-cutting area. You may notice that we did not design these webinars according to each pillar of an early warning system or of the Early Warnings for All initiative. We rather invited representatives from each pillar to speak in each of the webinars. So I would actually like to invite our first speaker, who represents pillar 1 mostly, which is disaster risk knowledge. And it is Mr. Charles Brian Karame. He is head of the City Disaster Reduction and Management Office in the city of Baguio in the Philippines, a country which unfortunately tops the list of the World Risk Index list of vulnerable countries, I think second or third year in a row. So I would like to hand over to you and invite you to share with us how you ensure that at-risk communities can really participate in the design and implementation of an early warning system. Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joshan. Could you hear me?
Very well.
Hello?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, I'll go straight. Due to the limited time, I'll go straight to my presentation. It's entitled Building Inclusive and People-Centered Early Warning Systems. For the first, could you go back? Yeah. Just a backgrounder, our Baguio City is a city located in the northern part of the Philippines. It's a highly urbanized city in the mountains, home to almost 400,000 people. And it's a tropical country. Tropical country like in the Philippines, Baguio is a major tourist destination. But it has a cool climate. That is why we are called the summer capital of the Philippines. As many other cities in the Philippines, we are also, very prone, as Joshan has said. We are, I think in the 4th time in a row, we are the most vulnerable. We're very prone to multiple hazards, such as typhoons, landslides, earthquakes, floods, and even urban fires. To respond to this, we are very lucky to have started our partnership with the ADB, Asian Development Bank. For our flood early warning systems, we have an existing at least 10 systems that we have engaged with Rumble, with an Australian firm, that we have a flood early warning systems. And also lately, we have been in partnership with the UNDRR through our MHEWSs, the Resilient Inclusive City Hub for Multi-Hazard Early Warning Systems projects. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Our guiding principle is simple. Early warning must reach everyone, everywhere, and in formats that people can understand and act on. In the picture, you can see the several mayors and about three of them. And of course, our what I mentioned a while ago, the Rumble system that we have installed in various locations within Baguio City and our adjacent municipalities. This affirms our platform to connect communities, government, and partners so that information is not just received, but also understood and acted upon. In short, our vision is early warning system that is truly for all. Next slide. Inclusivity is at the heart of our system. We ensure that marginalized and at-risk groups are not left behind. Inclusivity is the heart. For example, our ADB Fuse project, we develop a person with disability friendly warnings. We use both audio and visual signs. This way, persons with disabilities receive timely and clear alerts and can take action just like everyone else. In fact, we also include them in our drills. Inclusivity also means collaboration. Our city works with barangays, our smallest unit of our government unit. We call them barangays. Universities such as University of Baguio, the St. Louis University, private sectors including telecom companies. We have around 4 telecom companies, the media, and the NGOs. Everyone has a role to play in making warnings effective. And we have seen results after Typhoon Ompong. That was in 2018. We have strengthened our community drills and participatory risk mapping. This led to faster evacuations and fewer casualties in the storms that followed. This shows us that one important lesson that we learned, that when early warnings are inclusive, they save more lives. Next slide, please. In Baguio, we don't just talk about inclusivity. We measure it. We look at the percentage of barangays that already have the RMCCA plans. We also track the participation of vulnerable groups in community drills, and we check the accessibility of warnings across different platforms, whether through SMS, through radio, sirens, we have several sirens, and of course the social media. But we know there is still more to do. Moving forward, we want to expand the hazards of our system covers to reach and empower vulnerable groups like persons with disabilities, children, the elderly, and to institutionalize inclusivity so that it becomes a standard in all our plans and policies. And ultimately, all of these efforts points towards one goal: Baguio City 2043. By year 2043, Baguio City will be a creative, inclusive, and livable city. That is the future what we are working for. And that is why our early warning system should not be a one-size-fits-all, but in fact must always be for all. A city where early warnings will be reaching everyone, everywhere. Baguio City, a city where not only no one is left behind, but is in fact everyone is included. And that is all. Thank you. Good day to everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karame. And it's impressive how you have really incorporated all the principles that we are trying to promote with the Early Warnings for All initiative already in your work. You highlighted drills, which are extremely important, participatory risk mapping, and to have good plans in place and a vision, as you have here on the slides. So really, really nice examples and sharing. Thank you so much. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to the next speaker, but at the same time, I would like to invite the audience to also pose their questions in this little Q&A box that you can see at the top, I think, because after the short presentations, we can go to these questions and discuss them. So our second speaker, I'm very happy because she represents Pillar 2, which WMO is leading. It's detection, observations, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting of hazards, and if we can, even of potential consequences. And it is Miss Rossi Mitiepo. She's the director of the NEWE Meteorological Service. very small island country far away, but we are very happy to have a Pacific voice here with us. And yeah, what mechanisms are you putting in place, or are you utilizing to ensure that early warning systems are inclusive in NIUE and in the region? Over to you. Thank you.
First of all, thank you and for the opportunity to be on the webinar, as well as joining you from the Rock of Polynesia, Niue Island. It's Sunday afternoon here, and I've just walked away from church in a village community called Mutalau. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone. Just to go through the background information in regards to how we have taken, or we have started working on including JETSI at the moment in our process in terms of early warning systems for Niue. So in a small island like Niue, it's very easy to assume that all persons and groups have been considered in early warning systems planning processes. It's not until we look at the specific groups to include JETSI, gender equality and social inclusion, and then we realize that there are persons or groups that are still needed to, we need to ensure that they are recognized and included. When Niue mid-service issue weather warning, our normal processes is through the information that is disseminated to the general public through various mediums such as radio, email, chat groups, television, and village council representatives, because Niue is one single island. However, we have 13 or 14 villages around the island. That's where we have the village chairpersons who act as a voice for the communities. So the expectation is, and the assumption, that the information is further distributed or channeled leaders or contact persons at all levels, which is at government level, private sector, and communities. So that's the business as usual type process that we use. However, this year we were introduced to having a contact person on gender for Niue Meteorological Service, as well as other Pacific Island countries, through the Climate and Ocean Support Program for the Pacific, called COSPAC, which is an Australian-funded program. There was also a regional workshop that was held earlier this year in March for climate traditional knowledge, and that included or incorporated JETSI into the program. And it was at this workshop where we heard the views from the Niue Taulomaki Association group, which is a group that includes disability here in Niue. And we have identified them as one of the key groups that we would like to work with this year and in the future. But we have, like I said, we have worked with the business as usual kind of process that we have in place. We also work with the Niue Girls and Boys Brigade of the Ecclesia Keresiano Niue, which is a faith-based group or religion. And this is using a local crop called the yam to link climate traditional knowledge and to bring in the scientific knowledge in a way that the local people understand. So yam is used as a climate indicator for tropical cyclones. And under the same umbrella of the faith-based group, we also have another activity with the women of the church, which uses the arrowroot to draw the linkages between climate and traditional knowledge. And the other group that we were working with is the youth, in terms of providing a vision and mapping out the activities that is interesting to them, for them to undertake in relation to weather, climate, and climate change. So those are the groups that we have worked with, and finding out like new ways how to work and new ways how to provide the information in order for people to understand it much more clearer. So over the past years, we also collaborated with the Council of Women here in Niue, discussing various issues relating to their vulnerability from the land, the environment, the water, health, and disasters. Because sometimes we assume that they are safe where they are in the community, but we don't know that sometimes they are living on their own. They are elderly, that have no other families living with them. Most of their families are in New Zealand. So when it's time for disaster preparedness, if there's a trough of low pressure coming by and they live, if they live along the western coast, might be affected by the waves. So then who provides that support to them? So we also hear their views in terms of the information, how the information is sometimes delayed in getting to them, or how they need help, but no one is there available to support them. So those are the kind of voices that we need to hear from the community. So what mechanisms have been effective in engaging some of the stakeholders and participation? One of the important activities that we implemented a few years ago was called the community-based early warning system. And this is through the climate resilience early warning, through the CRUISE project, with the support of WMO and CRUISE Canada. We wrote out the program, but we also looked at both sides and how MHEWSs and NDMO can support the communities. But we chose one group in the community, which is the Girls and Boys Brigade group, for us to implement this activity. Although the program is very effective, but sometimes the funding support comes to an end, so it's not sustainable. However, through the Girls and Boys Brigade platform, we have managed to collaborate and continue the relationship with them and to strengthen them by looking for other funding mechanisms to support them and continue the process. So that's the kind of collaboration that we like to invest in, because the sustainability of information, of the knowledge being passed on to them is there for a very long time. Because the Girls and Boys Brigade, they normally have a program after school, which is every Wednesday. They have a 1 hour session or 2 hour session from 5 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, where they assemble together and they roll out or they carry out their own activities. But we can incorporate activities or information from MHEWSs into their program, which then becomes more sustainable. They also, with our support, developed a strategy called the Girls Brigade Niue Resilience Brigades towards a healthy living and climate change strategic plan 26. And the activities becomes part of their program over the last few years. And now it's heading towards 2026 when it phases out. So they're already starting to look at new ways or planning new activities. And this is where MHEWSs can support them for early warning for the next phase of the strategy. Yes, in terms of the crop, yam planting, why did we choose this as an activity? Because it's very easy for the local people to understand and link to the scientific knowledge. We have had a number of community engagements in the past where we went around and represented pure science, just scientific knowledge. And sometimes you can see they're not interacting as much, but when we introduced climate traditional knowledge, they can't stop talking about how they use the moon phases, how they use the tides for fishing, for planting agricultural crops, and how seasons change, and how we see a shift in changing of climate, and how they are also impacted by just natural disasters. And they can also provide early warning in terms of the local community perspective. So those are some of the like innovative ways to how we can implement early warning and our efforts towards contributing to the world and the globe in terms of early warning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this, and you highlighted additional really important aspects. For example, engaging the youth and the students, so that we really plant the seed for the future generations, that they incorporate this idea of early warning and resilience, and also the traditional knowledge, of course, bridging it with the scientific knowledge, and also the role of development partners and donors in helping sustain these efforts and helping establish networks of gender focal points, what you mentioned. So thank you so much for sharing this. We are a little bit behind time, but I want to hand over now to the third speaker, who comes now from Asia, from Bangladesh. It's Mr. Mohammad Farhan Alam. He's the Deputy Director for Systems and Services Division at the Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. And this, he will speak very much to Pillar 3. Over to you.
Can you hear me?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johan Luther, and the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And good day to all the participants. My name is Mohammad Farhan Alam. I'm the Deputy Director at Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, BTRC. And today I'm going to talk about inclusive, institutional, and multi-stakeholder model for disseminating early warnings. How we are working on this in Bangladesh. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So a short note on BTRC. BTRC is the national telecom regulator in Bangladesh. We issue various telecom licenses, assign spectrum, monitor quality of service, and ensure compliance with the regulatory framework. As the co-lead of Pillar 3, we ensure that the telecom part of early warning system chain is always available, interoperable, and reliable across all operators. Currently, we are also in the process of developing the National Emergency Telecommunication Plan for Bangladesh and implement cell broadcasting with the assistance from ITU. The very purpose of this initiative is to support a whole of government multi-channel model and enable fast geo-targeted alerts across all the networks. Now I'm going to talk about the 5 pillars of our inclusive framework. The first one is accountability. By having written SOPs and designated focal points, we eliminate ambiguity. Second point is comprehensive coverage. Our system is flexible enough to cover cyclones, floods, landslides, lightnings, etc. And it ensures the right response for each context. Then third, we are multi-channel by design. That is telecom, SMS, broadcast, media, internet, and community institution all carry the same approved message simultaneously. Then the local legitimacy, as because alerts must be turned into action. CPP volunteers, local administrators, and others translate warnings into sheltering and movement. Communities trust these institutions, so instructions are more likely to be followed. And then finally, this is a living system through continuous improvement, regular drills, tabletop exercises, and post-event reviews ensure we learn and adapt. If we go to the next slide. This is the operational chain. Here I will explain how the framework comes to life. It starts with the scientific detection from our specialized agencies like Bangladesh Meteorological Department for cyclones and storms, and Flood Forecasting and Warning Center for river floods. Their data flows to National Coordinator, that's the Department of Disaster Management, or DDM. It prepares the public message and gives the official go for dissemination of that message. From here, BTRC, that is my organization, convenes the telecom side of connections, telecom side. So connections and timing are aligned. Dissemination happens in parallel through the mobile network operators, internet, and through broadcast on radio and television. Finally, the last mile is activated by Cyclone Preparedness Program, Bangladesh Red Crescent, and local administration, turning the message into action. In this framework, roles and responsibilities are documented in SOPs and Memorandum of Understanding with 24/7 focal points and an escalation ladder to keep the chain responsive. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So what is the impact of this system? You can see here a timeline of resilience from Cyclone Ranu in 2016, where over 0.5 million people were evacuated, to Cyclone Bulbul in 2019, which saw one of the largest ever mobilization, moving 2.1 million people to safety. Most recently, in Cyclone Remal in 2024, demonstrated the system's maturity, with nearly 0.8 million people were evacuated efficiently despite significant network and power outage. The long-term trend is even more fascinating. Cyclone-related mortality in Bangladesh is now over 100 times lower than it was in the 1970s. And we aim to go further. We are innovating to cover new risks, like piloting lightning early warning SMS for farmers and outdoor workers. We are pioneering anticipatory action for monsoon floods, acting before the peak to save lives and costs. And for those who are digitally excluded, we run a toll-free IVR service which provides a voice-based forecast to ensure low literacy and non-smartphone users are always in the loop. And how do we measure our this inclusivity? Of course, to ensure no one is left behind, we mainly focus on 3 dimensions of inclusivity. First, reach and coverage. We track who actually, sorry, it's the next slide. Sorry. To ensure that no one is left behind, we focus on 3 key dimensions of inclusivity. First is the reach and coverage. We track who actually receives warning by location and group across channels, and confirm receipt from vulnerable groups after drill and events. Second, comprehension and accessibility. We test message clarity in multiple languages and formats, monitor the channel mix, and collect community feedback. Then third, participation and action. We work with communities to build our plans. We make sure different groups like women, youth, and people with disabilities have a seat at the table. After an event, we ask people one simple question, and that is, did you understand the warning, and could you take an action? Their answer tell us if we have succeeded or not. In short, we measure reach, understanding, and participation. Then we feed the findings back to our SOPs, templates, and contact list, and training. So the system gets more inclusive every cycle. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. This was very impressive presentation, and I have to say that Bangladesh is among the initial 30 countries that received targeted support for early warnings for all, and has now almost finalized its national roadmap, which is really one of the core elements of this initiative to provide a costed action plan to strengthen a country's early warning system. Thank you so much also for highlighting these dimensions and how to measure inclusivity. And Yeah, really, really great. So
Thank
I
you.
would like to hand over to our fourth and last speaker, Ms. Emilia Belo from the she's a disaster management coordinator at the Timor-Leste Red Cross to represent Pillar 4, which is all about preparedness and response capabilities. Over to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, good afternoon from Dili, Timor-Leste. So as a lead for the Pillar 4 on preparedness to respond to the warning, CDTL has played an important role in early warning system in the country. As part of the IFRC network, we want to ensure that people and communities are ready to respond to hazards when a warning is issued. So how to translate the early warning into concrete action to protect the lives and livelihoods before a disaster strikes. On the other hand, also we implement the people-centered early warning system to ensure that warning services are people-centered, delivered through trusted channels and in formats that support decision-making at the community level. And the last part of how they support the testing, the preparedness to respond through the simulation, and also identify the gaps to improve the end-to-end early warning system. Yeah, when we talk about the inclusivity, I think that everyone also aware that at the community level, we establish a community-based volunteers that are trained on early warning system and also the local authority who are later will be deployed to do the raise awareness ration at the community level. This we want to ensure that the warnings are understandable and accessible and actionable for all the community members. In the IFRC, we apply the protection, gender, and inclusion principles that are in place to actively engage and accommodate the vulnerable groups, the fostering an environment where the voices are heard, their needs are addressed, and also their contribution are valued. The community-based early warning system is not only utilize the technology, but also facilitates the effective interaction among authorities, disaster management stakeholders at national and also at the local level and communities across the 4 elements of the system. So we integrate all the relevant stakeholders, including the community, agencies, and technical expertise, also including the disability organization, because when we talk about the inclusive, everyone is involved and we want to ensure that everyone is not left behind in all of our information that we provide. So and also the public and social media, because recently the UNDRR support through the Climate Center, Red Cross and Climate Center and CBTL, we conducted the study on the reach and the effectiveness of early warning system in Timor-Leste. So among those villages, among 30% of the villages around the country, the data has collected and found that all the information that we provide to the community, mostly from the local authority, which is they mostly rely on the meteorological information and also from civil protection authority as a government lead by DRM in country. But there is also information from the community that they also more trusted in the traditional knowledge and science that are available in each of the community, because the traditional science is different from one community to the other community. So they also rely on those traditional knowledge and also to complement the scientific information that from the National Meteorological Office provided to the community. And this early warning system we have designed and integrated in the community and authority and also the indigenous people. that will bring all the possibility to reaching people living as a last, as a first mile, because before we are thinking that put community as a last mile, but we want to ensure that how community to be as a first mile, they access the information simple, using the local language and understand how to take action upon the information that they receive. And through the development of the ownership of the community at the risk, we engaging them into our management of the early warning system. So we train them on the community members. We share responsibility in early warning system equipment that we facilitate at the community level. So far in our targeted at Timor-Leste, we are more on the establish the big loudspeaker, so that everyone at the community can access the information clear and how they can take action upon that, and also how to bridge between government entity and the community on the sustainability of the facilities, and also how to ensure that the community volunteers that already trained continue to support the local government in implementing the early warning system. Now, when we talk about the early warning system to be effective, they need to put in action. So we also conducted the early warning system assessment at the community level and developed the SOP, very simple standard operating procedure at the community level, who will doing what when they receive the warning, so that they can guide. And at the family level, at the household level, they divide the responsibility. When there is a time for evacuation, who will support who and how they can take action about the warning, and they save lives to the evacuation center. And we also have a signed MOU with the Civil Protection Authority and also with the National Directorate of Meteorological and Geophysics to ensure that we have a joint collaboration to support the community, especially the community that living in the risk area, because as you are aware that Timor-Leste is at risk of the several natural hazards, more on the hydrometeorological hazard, which is more on flood, drought, high wind, landslide, and others, geometeorological hazard like earthquake as well. So at the moment, as based on the global data that we all aware that 1/3 of the global population that access to the early warning system, and in Timor-Leste cases, not more than 20% of the total population, that we need to expand more, implement or more early warning systems, so that by 2027, based on the UN Secretary General, to ensure that by 2027 everyone on earth must be access the early warning information to save lives. I think that when we talk about inclusive multi-hazard early warning system, this is in Timor-Leste cases, this is we need to have more efforts to working together with all the stakeholders. This is not one organization business, but how we collectively have a joint working together, especially with the disability organization in country, with the women's group, and also with the indigenous people, because they are the one that very knows about the situation, and they have a traditional practice already so far to save lives by using their own capacity that they already have. So I think women, older person, children, people with disabilities should part of the preparedness and response process. We must test the SOP that we have, and we continue to do the simulation so that they can practically know how to evacuate, how to do action. Aside of that, also we are now implementing the anticipatory action in some of the villages that risk to flood, and also from FAO they implement the drought early action protocol. So this can provide more lead time to community, how to have a good preparedness before the event strikes. I think that's all that I would like to share. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much. And I think you very nicely put all together what previous speakers also alluded to, because you are on the ground and through these simulations, through these on the ground preparedness and response activities, you really also can provide the feedback to the other pillars for what is important. And I think you also addressed some of the questions that appeared in the very active Q&A section on that I could see. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to answer all of them. So on the one hand, I would like to ask our colleagues at ESCAP to put up a short Mentimeter question, just so that we get a sense of what your feeling is, what the groups and local actors are, which are currently missing or which are currently underrepresented in our early warning systems. So if you scan this code, you can respond to this one question: what are the key people and groups that are still missing from our early warning systems? And at the same time, maybe before I give the floor to Marco for some closing remarks, we can look at some selected questions, and maybe one or two of the speakers can try to address them. One was, for example, the question about accessibility. So many persons with disabilities may not have a mobile phone, or may not understand, or may not be able to read a message. And also, if they live in very remote areas, what do you do if there is a power outage, if there is no signal? So that would be one question. And if you like, you could also address language barriers in that question. Is there anyone from the four speakers who would like to take this question? Yes, Mr. Alam.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's a very interesting question and very much applicable for Bangladesh. In my presentation, I have said that the warning actually doesn't matter if it cannot be translated into action. And for that, we have taken a couple of initiatives. One initiative is that besides our digital or analog communication system, we have some announcement system like sirens and announcements from the nearby mosques and other sort of institutions. And we have around 140,000 volunteers who work in the 13 coastal areas of Bangladesh. They actually receive the message, and they actually do the great job of evacuating or alerting people at the last mile. So in Bangladesh, right at this moment, we are actually handling the situation in this way, and we are also working on developing various systems, though those are not yet in practice now. We are trying to develop some digital systems so that we can help the people with disabilities to evacuate during any disaster. Thank you.
When you are on mute.
So sorry, it happens to all of us still. Thank you so much. And just not to lose time, I would like to give the floor to one other question, maybe to the Philippines, because there was a question whether municipalities or local governments actually have dedicated budget lines to really enable this participatory process, especially when it comes to engaging children and youth and yeah, students in the process. Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Well, actually, in the Philippines, it's a mandatory that we allot every municipality and even cities at least 5% of their budget. So basically, it's a mandatory that you have to allot at least 5% of your like city budget. 5% of that will be dedicated for disaster risk reduction and management. So that's what we did. And in that 5%, we allot at least another something like 1% thereof on uh, early warning systems, which includes our vulnerable sectors, such as the persons with disabilities, the elderlies, and the children. So yeah, we have a mandatory allotment for that.
That's great to hear. And I think you and others alluded to all these important elements of early warning, like anticipatory action was mentioned in Timor, in Bangladesh, the amazing reduction of mortality thanks to early warning. So I think, or I hope that many of you can join us in future webinars where we may dedicate more time for questions and answers. Before handing over to Marco for some closing remarks, I see that colleagues already put up the QR code for our next webinar, which will be on science, technology, and innovation. It will be embedded into the ESCAP Disaster Resilience Week on Tuesday, the 25th of November at 1 o'clock Bangkok time. And then we will have another one in early December, and then next year we still haven't planned, but yeah, kind invitation to join us here. And for the last 2-3 minutes, I would just like to hand back to Marco for some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Jochen, and really appreciated the great presentations. Actually, I cannot offer a summary. It wouldn't render justice, but let me share with you what are my some of the key takeaways. I really enjoyed it came through various presentations, the question of measuring inclusivity, whether it is about impact, participations, investment, or reach and coverage, comprehension, accessibility, and participation and action. I think that these are great examples that we can build on. Another important point that came up is that we need to go beyond the JETSI and appreciate the many dimensions of intersectionality there. And that brings back to the question of socioeconomic and political elements. I think that there are many elements that will be very interesting to see how they're going to be addressed at the next seminar. For instance, the intersection between STI and more traditional knowledge, but also other important elements that came out today in terms of the combination of high-tech solutions with more humble solutions, and the question of maintenance. Which is huge. So maybe this is also a question for next seminar to go into it. Another big point is the question that no matter how sensitive technology advancements are there's nothing that can really substitute to periodic simulation. And the practicing and repracticing and giving feedback on what is understood also from the simulation remains literally vital. I don't think that there's anything else that can substitute that. And then another important element is what's something that came to my mind in terms of regulated inclusions, in the sense that the many dimension of inclusion that needs to be regulated either through standards or through literally regulations that can lead to interoperability, redundancy, and definition of standards and so on. I'll stop here also in the interest of time. I thank you very much also for my own education from you today. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to the next. Thanks to Jochen and to all the colleagues that helped in putting this together, and the great contribution from the participants and the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. And yeah, I think it was a wonderful summary. Maybe colleagues from ESCAP can briefly present the outcomes of the Mentimeter Word Cloud. And in closing, I just want to say that all these experiences are extremely helpful as all the partners under the Early Warnings for All initiative really try to expand this support to more and more countries and help them roll out this structured process of strengthening early warning systems. And yeah, with this experience, with this feedback, and what we collect here, it is really helpful to have this from you. And we had, I think, over 140 participants today, which is really great. And I would encourage you to join us for the following webinars. I just give you a few minutes to
Goodbye to everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Thank you all for your active participation. Thank you to all the speakers. I will be sharing around some summary slides of the whole webinar, and hope that you can join us in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.